souls yearning for mystery, hearts lost in time. Tonight, we will not sit by the warm fire listening to stories of everyday life. We will travel together to the vast sea that holds the greatest secret of human history, a city that exists only in dreams, in ancient manuscripts, and in the whispers of the sea breeze. Imagine an ancient world, when the continents were still different shapes, when humans had not yet explored the limits of wisdom and power. At that time, there was a land that no one knew about, a kingdom blessed by the gods, where architecture reached the clouds, where science surpassed all imagination, and where the legendary metal Orichalcum shone brighter than the sun. That was Atlantis, a civilization so brilliant that even the gods had to look up, an earthly paradise where wisdom and perfection reigned. But just as every bright light carries with it the shadow of its own destruction, Atlantis was no exception to the cruel laws of fate. Ambition crept into the hearts of the divine sons, pride blinded their eyes, and prosperity became shackles to their souls. And then, in a single night, a divine wrath descended. The vast ocean, once the source of life and protection, suddenly became the tomb of a legend. Atlantis, with all its glory, sank deep into the sea, becoming a whisper of the waves and winds, a secret that for thousands of years could not be deciphered. Is this just a fairy tale told by the philosopher Plato, a moral lesson about hubris and ruin? Or is there a painful truth behind the myth, a real city that once existed, and still lies there, cold in the deep waters, waiting to be revealed? Tonight, we will not only recount the legend of Atlantis. Together, we will trace its traces, from Plato's ancient inscriptions, through obscure signs on the seabed, to the most daring hypotheses about the existence of a timeless civilization. Open your minds, because we are about to embark on a journey not for the faint-hearted, an adventure into the depths of the sea, where eternal secrets await. Every great story begins with a word, a whisper passed down through time. And the story of Atlantis, you who crave mystery, begins not with the raging waves or the discoveries at the bottom of the ocean, but with the ancient manuscripts, the words stained with time, engraved by one of the greatest minds of the ancient world, the Greek philosopher Plato. It is from those pages that a lost kingdom, a sunken civilization, is reborn in the human mind, becoming an everlasting legend for thousands of years to come. It was around 360 BC when Plato, the brilliant disciple of Socrates, the teacher of Aristotle, recorded the story of Atlantis in two of his dialogues, the Timaeus and the Critias. He did not claim to be the creator of the story. Plato said that he had heard the story from Critias, a friend and student of his, to whom it had been passed down from his grandfather, Dropides. Dropides had heard it from Solon the Great, one of the 7 sages of ancient Greece, who had visited Egypt and learned the secret from the holy priests of Sais, an ancient city on the banks of the Nile. According to Plato, the Egyptian priests claimed that the story was true, and that it had taken place some 9,000 years before Solon, that is, about 11,000 BC, a period of time so long that it made all other history seem childish. So how was Atlantis described in Plato's account? It was not a small island, but a continent larger than Libya and Asia combined, located in the Atlantic Ocean, in front of the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar today. It was a land blessed by the sea god Poseidon, who fell in love with a mortal woman named Cleito and bore 5 pairs of twin sons. The eldest, Atlas, became the first king, and the continent was named after him, the kingdom of Atlantis was described as a wonder of the world. Its capital was an architectural marvel, built in the shape of concentric circles, 3 rings of water canals and 3 rings of land. These canals were wide enough to accommodate the largest ships, leading straight to the center of the city, where there was a small hill. On this hill, Poseidon built a sacred palace for Plato, and later, a magnificent temple for himself and the successive kings of Atlantis. The Temple of Poseidon in the center of the capital is an architectural masterpiece. The exterior is completely covered in the legendary metal Orichalcum, a brilliant red metal that sparkles like fire, said to be more valuable than gold and found only in Atlantis. Inside, the ceiling is made of ivory, decorated with gold, silver, and orichalcum. A colossal statue of Poseidon, standing on a chariot pulled by 6 winged horses, so high that it reaches the roof of the temple, exudes the majesty and power of the sea god. Around the temple, giant pillars are carved with images of the 10 kings and descendants of Poseidon, who ruled Atlantis through the generations. More than just architecture, the Atlantis civilization is described as having a perfect society and incredibly advanced technology. The Atlanteans were wise, just people who lived by divine laws given by the gods. They had complex canals to irrigate their fields, sturdy bridges connecting small islands, and a system of fresh water and natural hot water. They cultivated abundant crops, mined abundant minerals, and traded with distant lands. Their power and wealth were boundless, making them the rulers of a part of the world. According to the story, the kings of Atlantis strictly followed the divine rules of Poseidon, maintaining purity and justice throughout the generations. They held regular meetings to make laws and discuss the affairs of the empire. Their wisdom and morality were the foundation for the prosperity of the kingdom. Plato placed Atlantis before the Pillars of Hercules, a phrase that has haunted explorers and archaeologists for thousands of years. It was a vague reference, but it was enough to inspire a never-ending quest. With a mighty army, Atlantis once extended its power into Europe and Africa, even attempting to conquer Athens. But it was in Athens that they encountered a stubborn resistance, a confrontation between a virtuous civilization and an empire that had grown greedy and arrogant. And then, in Plato's account, a darkness began to descend. Over the generations, the divine blood of the Atlanteans began to dilute, and their mortal nature, with its greed and power, emerged. They began to use their great power for evil purposes, losing the purity and justice that had once defined the kingdom. It was this corruption that awakened the wrath of the gods. Zeus, the supreme god of Olympus, could not accept the corruption of a once blessed civilization. The legend of Atlantis, though only a tale told through the generations, has engraved in the human mind a dream of a lost paradise, a warning about the transience of all power when morality is corrupted. It is not just a page from Plato's book, but an echo from the past, a secret that has haunted explorers, scientists, and dreamers of a glorious city that sank to the bottom of the sea, waiting to be reborn one day. Is this just a fairy tale to teach a lesson, or a sad memory of a truth that once existed? The mystery of Atlantis, from Plato's ancient testimony, has begun. O lost souls, if Plato's account is but a dream, it must be the greatest dream ever woven by the mind of man. For when we delve into the description of Atlantis, we find not just a city, but a perfect picture of a civilization that reached the pinnacle of prosperity, far beyond the limits of what the ancient world had ever known. This is a story of Orichalcum light, of wonders that transcend time, and of pride that leads to the abyss. At the heart of the kingdom of Atlantis, on the main island known as the Isle of the Kings, the capital of Atlantis was a masterpiece of architecture and engineering. It was designed in perfect concentric circles, a harmonious union of land and water. 3 deep canals, connected to the ocean by a mile-long channel, allowed the largest ships, with full sails, to glide through to the heart of the city. The alternating land rings were protected by strong walls, built of different types of stone, black, white, and red, creating a majestic and colorful beauty. Most special, and also the most legendary, was the extensive use of orichalcum in construction and decoration. This was not only a rare metal, but also a luminous material, a brilliant red fire metal found in abundance throughout the island. The inner walls, temples, even pillars and everyday objects were coated or crafted from orichalcum, making the entire city sparkle as if enveloped in an eternal twilight. This light was not only a physical beauty, but also a symbol of their boundless power and wealth, a gift from the gods that no other civilization could match. Atlantis' irrigation system was a marvel far ahead of its time. The canals not only served as transportation, but were also an intricate network of water distribution systems that brought water from the high mountains to the lower lands. They tapped both hot and cold water from underground sources and channeled it into public baths, magnificent gardens, and pools that nourished life. This demonstrated not only their engineering prowess, but also their respect and ability to work in harmony with nature in the early Atlanteans. The agricultural lands were irrigated by an elaborate canal system, ensuring bountiful harvests that could support a large population. Atlantean society was perfectly organized under the rule of 10 kings, direct descendants of Poseidon. Each king ruled over a separate territory, but all were bound by a sacred code of law inscribed on an orichalcum pillar in the central temple of Poseidon. The kings met regularly to discuss laws, settle disputes, and strengthen alliances. They lived by the principles of justice, morality, and respect for the gods. The rulers were not only leaders but also philosophers, scientists, men of pure heart and superior intellect. Atlantis' wealth came not only from its natural resources but also from its craftsmanship and trade. They had rich mines of metals, including gold, silver, and especially orichalcum. They were master craftsmen in the creation of jewelry, weapons, and architectural objects from these precious metals. Their economy thrived through trade with far-flung lands, bringing back wealth and knowledge from other civilizations. Every corner of Atlantis exuded prosperity, where wealth was not the goal, but the result of wisdom and harmony. Atlantis's science and art also reached their peak. They had a profound understanding of astronomy, were able to predict celestial phenomena, and applied this knowledge to navigation and farming. Their technology, although not described in detail by Plato, was implied to be far ahead of its time, allowing them to build massive and complex structures with ease. Their art was not just about physical beauty, but also an expression of profound philosophies and sacred beliefs. Each work was imbued with meaning, reflecting a society that sought perfection in every aspect. In Plato's account, however, this perfection was not permanent. As power and wealth reached their peak, a change began to creep into the hearts of the Atlanteans. Poseidon's divine blood was diluted by his association with mortals, and human nature, with its greed, arrogance, and thirst for power, emerged. They began to see their power not as a gift to be served, but as a tool to be ruled. This decline was not a sudden event, but a slow, insidious process. From being the guardians of justice and order, the Atlanteans gradually became aggressive, expanding their power throughout the neighboring lands. They began to conquer other peoples, making them vassals, and tried to expand their empire into Europe and Africa. It was this ambition that led them to confront Athens, a small but resilient civilization that had retained its purity and virtue. This war was not just a territorial conflict, but a confrontation between two ideologies, two philosophies of life. It was this metamorphosis that caught the attention of the highest gods. Zeus, the god of gods, could not stand the fall of a once blessed civilization into arrogance and greed. He called a meeting of the gods on Mount Olympus, where the fate of Atlantis would be decided. The judgment had begun, and an unknown rage was brewing in the ocean, ready to devour all that had once existed. Dear souls who have followed the story of Atlantis, after the chapters of dazzling beauty and transcendent wisdom, we now face a harsh truth: even the mightiest empires, when they lose their purity and fall into greed, cannot escape the punishment of fate. This is the chapter of decadence, of divine wrath, and of the final day of Atlantis, a tragedy that turned a paradise into a grave at the bottom of the sea. As whispered in the previous part, over many generations, the divine blood of Poseidon in the Atlanteans gradually diluted. Along with that, the virtue and justice that their ancestors had preserved also faded. Instead of reverence for the gods and service to the community, personal ambition and an insatiable thirst for power grew in their hearts. They no longer considered wealth and power as gifts from the gods to create a just society, but as tools for expansion, for domination over other peoples. This decline was not only manifested through wars of expansion. It crept into every corner of Atlantean society. Luxury became wastefulness, sophistication became ostentation, and wisdom was distorted to serve selfish purposes. The temples were still magnificent, but devotion had declined. The canals still flowed, but the water carried the turbid ripples of greed. They forgot the teachings of the gods, forgot that with great power comes great responsibility. As Atlantis's depravity reached its peak, the sighs of the Olympians turned to rage. Zeus, the supreme god, judge of the universe, could no longer tolerate the arrogance and greed of a once blessed civilization. In the sacred temple of the gods, where thunder rumbled and decisions were made that would determine the fate of worlds, a council of gods gathered. With heavy eyes and a heart that could not accept the depravity of man, Zeus delivered his final judgment. The fate of Atlantis was sealed. And then, disaster struck. Not a protracted war, not a smoldering plague, but a natural fury, fierce and devastating, lasting for just a single day and night. The sea, which had been Atlantis' protector, suddenly became its devourer. From Plato's account, we can imagine, first came the terrible earthquakes that tore the earth apart. The ground shook violently, and the towering buildings of black stone, white stone, and orichalcum began to crack and tilt. The canals were broken, and the seawater rushed into the streets, drowning everything in chaos. The screams of the people echoed throughout the city as they fled in vain, searching for a shelter that did not exist. Then came the giant tsunamis, walls of black water, taller than the tallest towers, crashing in from all sides. The sea roared, swallowing the land, dragging all living things and structures into the endless abyss. The solid concentric circles, once symbols of perfection, now became giant millstones, crushing everything under the brutal force of the ocean. No one could escape, no one could resist. The flames of the volcano erupted from the ground, mixed with the boiling sea water and the thunder that slashed across the sky, creating a scene of chaos and terror. In a single night, the air teeming with life turned into a scream of disaster. The once glorious city of Atlantis, once the pride of mankind and the blessing of the gods, sank to the bottom of the ocean. All the magnificent architecture, all the timeless engineering, all the wisdom and pride of a great civilization were swallowed by the sea, leaving behind only white-capped waves and a terrifying silence. Plato describes, "In one terrible day and night, all your warriors were swallowed by the earth, and in the same way the island of Atlantis was submerged into the sea and disappeared." This account is not only a tragic ending, but also a warning, a lesson to all generations about the consequences of greed and arrogance. After the disaster, the ocean was no longer a navigable sea. Plato said that where Atlantis once existed, the sea became impassable due to the shallow and muddy left by the remains of the sunken island. This further reinforces the idea that Atlantis not only disappeared, but also left a physical mark, a curse on the sea, prohibiting all access and search. So, did anyone survive? Plato does not say. But according to other legends, folk tales whispered through the generations, perhaps a few lucky souls escaped Poseidon's wrath, drifting to strange shores, carrying with them fragments of the memories and knowledge of a lost civilization. They may have been the source of surprisingly advanced knowledge in other ancient civilizations, the seeds of Atlantean wisdom that were sown across the world. The tragedy of Atlantis is not simply the disappearance of a city. It is the disappearance of a dream, a warning of the fleetingness of all power when morality is corrupted. Atlantis, once the pinnacle of perfection, now lies deep in the darkness of the ocean, a great mystery, a constant call to those who dare to face fear and uncertainty in search of truth. Do its ruins still lie there, cold and silent, waiting to be reborn from the depths? Dear souls who thirst for truth, after witnessing the terrifying collapse of Atlantis in the raging sea, the most haunting question remains: was it just a myth woven by Plato to teach a lesson, or is there a heartbreaking truth about a great city that once existed, now sunk deep under the ocean? Over thousands of years, the desire to solve this mystery has urged countless explorers, scientists and dreamers to plunge into the depths of the sea, searching for the remaining traces of a lost world. From ancient times to the present day, the search for Atlantis has never ceased. Scholars of the Greek and Roman eras have fiercely debated the veracity of the story. Some considered it a philosophical metaphor, while others believed that Plato was telling a true story. As Europe entered the age of discovery, with its ocean-going ships, the desire to find Atlantis grew even more intense. From the icy Nordics to the warm Caribbean, from the remote Mediterranean to the vast oceans, countless locations have been proposed as the legendary city's final resting place. Among the underwater discoveries that have been linked to Atlantis, some stand out, although their authenticity remains a matter of debate. 1. The Bimini Road, Bahamas. In the 1960s, near the island of Bimini in the Bahamas, divers discovered a strange rock formation on the seabed. It was a road about 800 meters long, made up of thousands of rectangular and polygonal limestone blocks, arranged in a remarkably straight line. Proponents of the Atlantis hypothesis argue that this could not be a natural formation, but rather the remains of a wall, a harbor, or even a road from an ancient sunken city. The shape and arrangement of the rock suggest a man-made structure, a trace of human hands. They suggest that the location of Bimini, located in the Caribbean, could correspond to the western edge of Atlantis or be part of its network of outposts. However, mainstream geologists argue that this is simply a natural phenomenon, called a weathered coast, where rocks are broken and arranged by geological processes and tides over thousands of years. Still, the strange perfection of this road still makes many people think. 2. The Yonaguni Monument, Japan. In the mid-1980s, off the coast of Japan's Yonaguni Island, divers discovered a massive underwater stone structure that shocked the archaeological world. It was a giant step structure that resembled a pyramid or an ancient castle, with sharp angles, distinct steps, and smooth flat surfaces. It was nearly 25 meters high, and about 150 meters wide. Many believe it was a man-made structure, an ancient city or temple that sank due to a major earthquake. Proponents of this theory point to the straight cuts, right angles, and shapes like human faces or animal statues carved into the stone. If it was man-made, it could date back as far as 10,000 years. Which is roughly the same time as the fall of Atlantis, according to Plato. Geologists, on the other hand, believe that Yonaguni is simply a natural rock formation, created by wind, wave, and tectonic erosion. Yet its perfect angles and strange symmetry remain a mystery that has yet to be fully solved. These discoveries, while not yet confirmed as Atlantis, have sparked heated debate about the possibility of ancient underwater civilizations. At the same time, scientists have begun to look for other, more geological evidence, crust movements and sea level changes. Over thousands of years, the Earth's crust has been constantly shifting. Large earthquakes, volcanic activity, and shifting tectonic plates can cause entire continents or large islands to sink into the sea. Furthermore, sea levels have changed significantly throughout Earth's history, especially after the last ice age. Global sea levels have risen tens of meters, potentially submerging coastal areas or small islands. Geologists believe that if Atlantis existed, it may have sunk due to a combination of these factors. Thera volcano and the Minoan connection. One of the strongest geological theories regarding Atlantis is its connection to the eruption of the Thera, Santorini, volcano around 1600 BC. The eruption is believed to have been one of the largest in human history, causing a huge tsunami and a thick cloud of ash that devastated the Minoan civilization on Crete and neighboring islands. Some scholars have suggested that the story of Atlantis may have been a distant memory, passed down through the generations, of this disaster. While the date and location do not exactly match Plato's account, Thera was much smaller and closer to Greece. It does show that a thriving civilization could be completely destroyed by a natural disaster in a day and a night. This provides practical evidence that disasters like Atlantis are not impossible. These relentless searches, while yet to yield any incontrovertible evidence of Atlantis, keep the legend alive. Each new discovery at the bottom of the sea, whether later explained as natural or not, ignites a new ray of hope, a new whisper from the depths. We wonder, is the sea itself trying to hide this great secret, or is it simply challenging humans to persevere in their search? And in the fog of doubt, the question still hovers: is Atlantis a forgotten memory of a city that once really existed, or is it just a great moral lesson dressed up in legend? Whatever the answer, the desire to find the truth still drives us to continue our journey into the depths of the ocean, where eternal secrets await. Brave souls who dare to look into the abyss of the unknown, after searching for the physical traces of Atlantis, we now enter the realm of the most daring speculations, where the line between myth and science becomes blurred. This is a chapter about the curse of disappearance, about superior technology, and about the incredible theories that have haunted the human mind about Atlantis, a city that not only sank deep under the sea, but also contained secrets beyond all mortal understanding. One of the most shocking whispers about Atlantis is the theory of a civilization with superior technology, even beyond what we have today. Plato hinted at their sophistication, but later folklore and scholars have taken the idea even further. They believe that the Atlanteans possessed not only advanced architecture and irrigation, but also technologies related to energy, magnetism, and even levitation. The center of these theories often revolves around giant energy crystals. Stories say that Atlantis had great crystals, which were used to collect and amplify energy from the sun, the Earth's magnetic field, or even the universe itself. These crystals not only powered the entire city, illuminating the streets and palaces with brilliant light, but could also be used to control the climate, move giant objects with the mind, or even communicate with other dimensions. Some even believe that it was the misuse or overuse of these crystals that caused the ultimate disaster, causing them to explode or go out of control, sinking Atlantis. The disappearance of Atlantis has also been linked to other mysteries of the world, most notably the Bermuda Triangle. Many believe that this deadly sea, where countless ships and planes have disappeared without a trace, is where the remaining energy crystals of Atlantis are active. They claim that these crystals, even though they are deep under the sea, still emit unusual energy or magnetic fields, causing equipment to malfunction, or even opening temporary, space-time portals that swallow everything that passes through. Could these mysterious disappearances be the echoes of a lost civilization, an energy curse left over from an ancient disaster? An even more unlikely theory is that of the survivors or descendants of Atlantis. Although Plato did not explicitly mention it, folklore around the world tells of mysterious individuals with superior knowledge who emerged in ancient civilizations after the disaster of Atlantis. They are said to be the last Atlanteans, who escaped the Great Flood and brought with them knowledge of agriculture, architecture, astronomy, and even ancient magic. This knowledge later became the basis for the development of the Egyptian, Mayan, or pre-Inca civilizations, explaining their mysterious feats. This theory even goes so far as to talk of genetic memory, that some of the knowledge of Atlantis is still hidden deep in the DNA of some modern people, waiting to be awakened. And indispensable in the treasure trove of fantastical theories about Atlantis is the connection with aliens. Some believe that Atlantis was not a purely mortal civilization, but a colony or an outpost of intelligent beings from the stars. It was these gods who brought the Atlanteans superior technology and knowledge, making them such an advanced civilization. The fall of Atlantis, in this hypothesis, could have been due to the withdrawal of the alien visitors, or some cosmic conflict, which left them abandoned and destroyed. Stories about ancient astronauts often mention Atlantis as evidence of alien intervention in human history. Although there is no concrete scientific evidence to confirm these theories, they still exist and thrive in the minds of those who yearn for the extraordinary. They are not just stories, but answers to a deep human desire, the desire for a more glorious past, a more technologically advanced future, and a universe that is not alone. These theories, however unbelievable, have been and are still driving people to constantly search, to constantly dream about what is lost and what might exist beyond our understanding. And perhaps, it is in this blend of vague reality and fantastic stories that we can truly feel the beauty of the Atlantis legend. A secret that refuses to be fully solved, a curse of disappearance that has turned a city into an eternal symbol of the extraordinary. The ocean remains silent, but the whispers of Atlantis, of energy crystals, of visitors from the stars, will forever echo in the minds of those who dare to believe in the impossible. Dear souls who have traveled with us through the words of Plato, through the whispers of the sea, and through the most daring hypotheses, we now stand before the end of the story of Atlantis. Despite all the searching, all the speculation, all the dreaming, one fact remains: the city of Atlantis remains a great mystery without a final answer. Did Atlantis really exist as a brilliant civilization that sank beneath the sea, or was it just a philosophical metaphor woven by Plato to teach about moral decay and the consequences of greed? This question has divided scholars and those who crave mystery for centuries. If it is real, it is the most eloquent testimony to a lost era of humanity, where humans reached the pinnacle of wisdom and technology, only to destroy themselves. It is an eternal warning about the cycle of prosperity and decline, about how power and arrogance can lead to destruction. If it is just a myth, it is a testament to the boundless power of the human imagination and its ability to create stories that transcend time and space. A story powerful enough to inspire thousands to spend their lives searching for an unreal dream. Atlantis is more than a city. It is an idea. It is a symbol of lost perfection, a dream of a flawless society where wisdom, justice, and prosperity reign, decay and punishment, a warning of the consequences when humans forget morality and fall into greed, buried knowledge, a hope that superior technology and understanding may still exist, waiting to be rediscovered, eternal mystery, a reminder that this world still has countless unsolved mysteries that defy our understanding. Although there is no concrete scientific evidence to confirm the existence of Atlantis, this legend continues to haunt and fascinate humanity, permeating every corner of culture, literature, and art. In literature and cinema, from Jules Verne's science fiction novels, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, to adventure films, Atlantis has always been an endless source of inspiration for stories of lost worlds, mysterious technologies, and underwater adventures. It has become an archetype for utopian cities or destroyed civilizations. In science and discovery, although Atlantis has not been found, the desire to find it has fueled the development of ocean exploration technology, of underwater geology and archaeology. These searches have helped us discover countless other wonders under the sea, from pristine coral reefs to previously unknown species. In spirituality and philosophy, Atlantis is also considered a spiritual symbol, a source of ancient wisdom, a part of the history of the human soul. Many people believe that connecting with the energy or knowledge of Atlantis can help them discover their inner potential. Every time a ship sails the Atlantic, every time a scientist dives into the depths, every time a child dreams of wondrous stories, the echoes of Atlantis rise up. They are echoes of a glorious past, of an inevitable tragedy, and of an eternal secret. The sea, the guardian of these secrets, remains silent, never revealing the whole truth. It swallows cities, civilizations, and holds them in its vast embrace. And perhaps it is precisely this uncertainty that makes the Atlantis legend so timeless. It is not a story with a clear ending, but rather an endless invitation to human curiosity. It reminds us that, no matter how much science advances, there are still countless things beyond our understanding and control. That this earth, with its vast seas and deep underground, holds secrets greater than any imagination. So, is Atlantis a myth, or a truth buried deep beneath the sea? Perhaps the real answer lies not in whether it existed, but in what it does to our minds and hearts. It is a beacon of mystery, a reminder that the desire to explore, the desire to seek the extraordinary, is an integral part of human nature. And as you look up at the vast ocean, listen. Perhaps, in the murmur of the waves, in the salty breeze, you will hear the whisper of a lost city, an eternal call from the ages, forever urging us to believe in the impossible, and to continue our endless journey into the sea of mystery.